had any post-high school education is objection around the lobbery.
During this conference that she considers herself to be an expert in this area. Glendora, do you intend a trial to offer to the court and the jury testimony by yourself as an expert, offering expert opinions in the area?
I don't think I even know what that means. I'm going to the jury and I'm going to tell them who I am, what I've done, and what they have done to me. What do I care whether I'm an expert or not?
Yeah, that they have a right to make inquiry into your qualifications to testify and your background to testify as an expert.
How was I an expert when I graduated from high school? How was I an expert?
Your educational background, your entire educational background, as well as your work background,
how about kindergarten?
Would be relevant to the issue of whether you would be permitted by the court to testify as an expert.
Another rule in favor of the
I didn't even started when I graduated from high school. So what does that have to be with being an expert?
I'm not going to engage in a debate with you. I've directed if you intend to offer testimony as an expert, you will answer the question.
I think it's unreasonable about high school education when I graduated from high school.
Your objection is noted. Next question, please. What's the next general area?
I'm trying to find it because there's a lot of back and forth, so just give me a moment.
Your background to testify as an expert.
How was I an expert when I graduated from high school? How was I an expert?
Your educational background, your entire educational background, as well as your work background, will be relevant to the issue of whether you would be permitted by the court to testify as an expert.
I don't have anything even started when I graduated from high school. So what does that have to be with being an expert?
I'm not going to engage in a debate with you. I've directed if you intend to offer testimony as an expert, you will answer the question.
I think it's unreasonable about high school education when I graduated from high school.
Your objection is noted. Next question, please. What's the next general area?
I'm trying to find it because there's a lot of back and forth, so just give me a moment.
and prevention of depositions could result in sanctions, including the possibility of a dismissal of your action, and I don't want that to happen.
Great.
The record should reflect the plaintiff is making sarcastic faces at me, and she's rolling her eyes and shaking her head. Go back and resume the deposition.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have an application, Your Honor, that you recuse yourself.
Denied.
2-page letter briefs. I wrote 18 of them, I think. Here's the first one, to Judge Fox. You said that Glendora is a party to the action and has to be deposed. On that basis, Barry Marshall must be deposed. Glendora requests, and why should she have to depose Barry Marshall before June 30th. Second letter. Ben Wiles said he wanted to depose Glendora. She objected. Ben Wiles said, I'm going to do it anyway. Glendora has reported to you that he has been this bossy before. The date he was talking about was June the 24th, 1996, Monday, at 11 a.m. Glendora objects. She will consent to be deposed on June the 28th, 1996, Friday at 2 p.m. A deposition and a conference in one day is too much. The demented, irrelevant, and unprofessional questionings of Ben Wiles for 3.5 hours should never have been allowed. Glendora applies that he submit his question to you, and you screen and delete just the way you did on Glendora's document request. Judge Fox knocked out my document request one after the other. So do the same with Ben Wiles' irrelevant questions. Yet, as always, you rule in his favor. And of course you will rule in his favor again. You haven't done a thing about TCI murdering public access, Glendora's program, and 160 others have not been seen or heard in 18 towns since May 1st. And you go on letting Ben Wiles ask frivolous questions, draining our time and life, and doing nothing for us. When we tried to sift out the reasons Ben Wiles gave you today for asking these endless questions, totally irrelevant to the scope of discovery as laid down by you, March the 29th, we can't come up with a thing that Wiles said that made sense. We don't think you can either. But it makes no difference. The decisions will all be negative. Ever since Gannett, a judge has to have judgment. It is grueling and totally unnecessary to sit there for 3.5 hours and be asked questions that you know, I know, Franklin knows, and Ben Wiles knows the answers to. You threaten Glendora with sanctions when she has done nothing wrong, but when Ben Wiles defies you and Judge Connor by no home addresses, you back down on the sanctions you threatened him with. Glendora should note on the audio tape how mean you look at her and how you shake your pencil at her and be even meaner to her if she stands up for herself. Is this what I went to court for? To be abused by lawbreakers and a mean judge? You lost so much control you even threatened to dismiss Glendora's case. What would be your ground? Generally, the courts want cases resolved on their merits. Second letter, it took an hour. It was Tuesday night that it was written. Third letter, Judge Fox told Ben Wiles that there could be a short deposition of Franklin. Yet down in the deposition room, Ben Wiles said the deposition would be 1 hour to 2 hours. That is not short. Please rule that this deposition be no longer than a half an hour. Sincerely, Franklin Buell. Letter 4. You said Mr. Wiles would ask me reasonable questions. Glendora wants you to hear the list of questions Mr. Wiles asked her after we went back at 1:50 p.m. They were not reasonable, and Glendora objects. From 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., Glendora was deposed. That is not reasonable. The questions had zero to do with the scope of the discovery, which you stated March 29, 1996 as being. Who made the decision to take Glendora's program off and 160 others? Channel 8, why, and who had input into the decision? It was cruel and inhumane punishment, and if you had sat through it, you could have seen that. But you rule on hearsay on everything. You did not witness what was going on. Glendora was objecting on grounds of irrelevance, and she was right. You were not there, and you did not know. They broke the law. We are the injured and the innocent. We come to court for protection of a right and relief from a wrong. We get nothing from you but more injury. You are shamelessly biased and prejudiced. You rule repeatedly in favor of the lawbreakers. You do nothing to protect the injured and the innocent. Glendora writes you a post-conference memorandum for the conference of May 24th, and you don't even read it. Glendora comes to court June 18th to address issues that you did not read, and you refuse to hear them. Glendora is not read, she is not heard, and this is the same dereliction committed by autistic Judge Rakoff. Glendora told you she did not want to squander her conference on Wiles' move for depositions, but you let him monopolize the conference and nothing else gets done. Glendora is not heard again. You protect the lawbreakers on home addresses, yet you make Glendora answer, do you have any other residents? What does high school have to do with defendants robbing us of public access? The next question is going to be about kindergarten. Glendora was out of high school long before public access began. When we came up to see you after 2.5 hours of these irrelevant questions, you never ruled once in plaintiff's favor. Insulted plaintiff, abused her, and threatened her. Both you and Wiles bullied plaintiff incessantly, morning and afternoon. And you think Glendora is supposed to lie back and take your beatings without protest. You are doing a miserable job and should, as Glendora applied, recuse yourself. This is hardly what taxpayers are supporting you for in that $33 million building with no parking. If you had done your job and read the post-conference May 24th memorandum, you would have seen that the papers you asked Mr. Wiles for were included in Glendora's memorandum. Is that efficient? Is that delay and cost reduction? Franklin was so agonized by the irrelevance, time lost, life lost of Ben Wiles. He broke down. He writhed, he shivered, he shook. He went into tears. This is a fine way to treat a man 77 years old and who offered his life D-Day to VE Day for just courts and fair judges. We don't have as many years left to live as you bullies and lawbreakers, and this is hardly the way to spend them, vainly seeking equal protection of the law in a mean court. And that one took 1 hour. This is 5. You are just trying to wear us down. You have no intention of doing what is just. The motion order to show cause was signed on June 12th, Wednesday at 4:45 p.m. Wiles was to answer by June 18th to show cause. Glendora has 5 days for a reply affidavit, and Judge Fox robbed her of that. And how did it end up at the 9:25 a.m. in conference? Judge Fox did not give Glendora any chance at all to reply to Wiles. Judge Fox is out to get Glendora any way he can. After so much bias, prejudice, and outright bullying, Glendora made an application in the courtroom at 1:50 p.m. for Judge Fox to recuse himself. He is not fit for the job, and he denied the application. And that's the second time I've asked him to recuse himself. Judge Fox uses 2-page letter briefs as an excuse, as an escape, not to read Glendora's post-conference memorandum. I wonder what he's going to use for an excuse not to read these. Judge Fox deliberately evaded, willfully knowingly, Glendora's point that she had a right to depose Barry Marshall because she's a party to the action. Glendora comes to court for protection from the lawbreakers, and who gets the protection? The lawbreakers. Does Glendora get protection? No. And he rules in Marshall's favor with no basis and no explanation and no citation. The minute Glendora refuses to take Judge Fox's bullying, Jerome calls the Pinkertons. Judge Fox's prejudice in protecting the lawbreakers comes to gross negligence in refusing to attend and read the post-conference, 24th of May by Glendora. He has no excuse for that, and he tries to hide behind 2-page letter briefs. Glendora is going to have to file a grievance against Judge Fox, and she will have to file a grievance against Ben Wiles. Ben Wiles makes the fights. He made the fight with Judge Connor with his ex parte manipulation of Judge Connor over the phone until Judge Connor recused himself and resigned in disgrace. Ben Wiles made the fight with Judge Rakoff by defaulting for the May 13, 1996, 6:30 p.m. with no proof of documents, and Judge Rakoff robbed Glendora of a telephone conference. Ben Wiles made the fight with Judge Fox today. Is this the way courts should be run? What a fraud is perpetrated on the American public, and last Friday was Flag Day. That's the end of number 5. It's 3:30 now. No, it's 3:25. I guess we could read you another one. 3:30, I have to pack up and go edit this program, which means that you just put down the graphics and the music. It's really a straight run. and you go from 8mm to 3/4 inch and with a VHS dub. Judge Connor gives Glendora home addresses, Judge Fox gives Glendora home addresses, then both judges go back on their word. And all day today, Glendora's home address was bandied all over the place. Clerk Jerome Great announces the case as the Glendora matter. How persistently can you be wrong and not own up to it? The case is captioned Glendora versus Malone. How long is it going to take a United States magistrate judge to admit he's wrong? Judge Fox says, note on audio tape, plaintiff is staring out the window. Judge Fox never said defendants violated free speech, free press, 47 United States Code, 531E, 829.3, 826, 14th Amendment, First Amendment, Section 1983 and Section 1985. Plaintiff slammed her pen on the table, Judge Fox says, but the lawbreakers didn't do anything wrong, did they? Little people don't get equal protection of the law. There was no reason at all Judge Fox could not have answered Glendora's Rule 60B motion question. He evades too many answers. He accused Glendora of asking him for legal advice. She doesn't want legal advice from him. All she wants is her due process, fairness, and impartiality. A juror has to be fair and impartial. Why shouldn't a judge be? All Glendora wanted was clarification. Surely a judge has to be more articulate than that. He easily could have answered, Franklin testifies. Glendora and Franklin were 10 hours preparing for this conference, reviewing the files, the audio tapes, 5 of them, the law, and never got a chance to use it. The time was stolen by the Wild's turmoil over depositions of F&G. And Glendora said she did not want her conference time squandered by this frivolousness, but it was, due to poor judgmentship. The post-conference, May 24th, took 20 hours, and Judge Fox neglected his duty. He's paid to do a job. Glendora had comic relief for the courtroom. She wanted to point out her Fox box, but she won't do any humor favors for this box, for this court. Ben Wiles is so pro se about television, he can't stammer out a decent question. He bundles up 3 questions in one, and his diction is so garbled, and on purpose. That is how he railroads his way through these things, and the judges are hoodwinked. Judge Fox bullied Glendora, I'll preclude you as an expert at the trial. The jury will know then, anybody who has spent 43 years in television and 23 years in public access and is on 11 different cable systems has to be an expert. But if Judge Fox wants to do something that's foolish, go ahead. It's his record he's cutting. It's time to tell the New York Post like Judge Bear. Time for one more. I think number 7. The facts and circumstances surrounding the production of Glendora's program are all known by Greco, Stith, and Caridio. Wiles could find out from them, and this court and Wiles violated Glendora's right to depose these 3. Glendora has already revealed the viewership of her program. More people have seen Glendora on public access and mentioned it to her than on the NBC television network on concentration. Every community Glendora asked to cablecast her program on his public access channel refused. Second, this is true according to all the other public access producers. Other litigations is irrelevant. It is not the scope of this discovery. What does this have to do with TCI taking Glendora's program off TV? Her informer papyrus has no relevance, and Judge Fox ruled so. Class representative arguments have not been heard yet. Wiles will get his chance then. Plaintiff's deposition is both necessary and required for discovery, so is Barry Marshall's. The court has not given a reason, good or bad, for Glendora's not deposing Barry Marshall. Ben Wiles lied that the depositions were scheduled. They were not. They were ordered to be scheduled May 24th. They were not. Neither Glendora nor Franklin consented. Ben Wiles lies again. A conference and a deposition in the same day, plus 3 legal papers to answer, is burdensome, cruel, and inhumane. The date spoken of was June 21st, so you can see that Wiles lied. Reduce the cost of litigation is crocodile tears. Glendora's costs are $965 3/4 hours, $1,602.28, $241,437.50 of legal labor, 75 chapters, 1/2 hour each on TV, and this must be 78 or 79, 6,286 pages, and 18 volumes of their bad record, 28 weeks of emotional disturbance, lost income, lost business, and abandonment of personal affairs. These depositions can be done by telephone just as plaintiff deposed defendants. Time-consuming and expensive. Maybe lawbreakers learn a lesson. What is frivolous is defendant's defense. Harassed? Who murdered public access? Who violated free speech, public access, and public forum, and more. Okay, I have to go edit now. It's 3:30. So we will finish these. As I say, I think there are 18 of them. p.m. Folks, and we just came back from editing, and Linda Greco was wonderful. She got us through it, and I don't know how many programs we made. Let's see, 44 minutes. I guess we must have made made 5 or 6 half-hour programs. And so, here is letter brief number 8, written on June 18th, 1996, Tuesday at 7:19 p.m. Ben Wiles defied Glendora with, "I'm not spending more than 3 days on these depositions," meaning the depositions that Glendora needed. Yet today, Judge Fox and Ben Wiles would not let Glendora depose Stith, Greco, and Carrillo. Yet these people have the answers to all the tedious questions Wiles was grilling Glendora with today. Glendora needs clarification on the audio tapes of 5/24/96. Judge Fox said he would write a report and recommendation on the motion to dismiss. At the end, Judge Fox said this is a dispositive motion, and a telephone conference has to be set up with Judge Rakoff because he decides dispositive motions. Well, which way is it? Is Judge Fox going to decide it, or is Judge Rakoff going to decide it? May the 24th, 1996, Friday, Ben Wiles messed up everything and overburdened plaintiff for 3 things: answering his Wiles paper of March the 22nd, which took Glendora from 3:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. to answer, prevented Glendora thereby from preparing for the deposition, prevented Glendora from preparing for the Fox conference. Today, Ben Wiles overburdened plaintiff with 5 things all in one day. 1, answer his discovery letter of June 14th, answer his second, his show cause of June 14th, preparation for Fox conference today, deposition of Glendora today, and deposition of Franklin. That's 5 things in one day. It is 8:08 p.m. and Glendora is going to write her reply affidavit to Ben Wiles, show cause of June 14th. Glendora has an intense hatred of Ben Wiles because he is so crooked and so devious. The court should make Wiles do written interrogatories, Rule 32, and have the court stenographer ask the questions. Ben Wiles is mandated to be fully aware of the facts and circumstances of this case. His questions today show that he is woefully deficient. Judge Fox did not give Glendora an opportunity to oppose orally Wiles' letter brief of June the 14th, 1996, Flag Day. Let's act like Americans. So Glendora presents it today in writing. Glendora pleads hardship on his uncontrolled deposition of her. That was number 8 letter brief. This is number 9. And I believe that these were submitted at 4:30 p.m. yesterday, Wednesday, when we came home from Nassau County. Glendora pleads hardship on this uncontrolled deposition of her. 3.5 hours already are enough. It is an emotional and mental strain. She could not get to sleep last night until 10:30 p.m. The usual sleep time is 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. She was awakened at 3 p.m. by the abuse she had taken by Wiles and by Judge Fox and by the lawbreakers murdering public access and free speech. All of her work is getting backlogged on backlog. She long ago had to abandon her personal life and her business to try to keep up setting the record straight on defendants lying and covering up and on the court's failures. And now she can't even keep that up to date after having to give up on keeping her personal affairs and business in order. Mr. Wiles' wild questions have to be limited. Again, plaintiff urges the court to screen and delete his excessive and nerve-wracking questioning, just as this court truncated plaintiff's document request and zapped her interrogatories without her even knowing it had happened. It is not fair to Franklin, just turned 77, to ruin our marital life. He offered all he had D-Day to VE Day for an America that this court, Ben Wiles, Malone, Magnus, TCI et al. Are trying to ruin. We have never broken any laws, our rights are robbed, and you treat us criminally. You treat us brutally. So we want this madness of Ben Wiles put under control. Defendants have violated our rights severely enough. This lawyer and his court should not violate our rights on top of that. You are beating up on a 68-year-old woman pro se. Yeah, it is. It says what? It's one woman facing 39 male bullies. Old woman pro se, IFP, senior citizen, whose free speech press, constitutional right to freedom from editorial control by a greedy cable TV operator, a billionaire monopolist to which you have a proclivity for protection, and more have been violently violated. Glendora is exhausted this morning, having worked 12.5 hours Monday and Tuesday yesterday to 8 a.m. on the June 18th conference, plus working with no time off, 8 a.m. to 9:45 a.m. equals 13.75 hours, plus Franklin's work, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., 10 hours. And this wild, untrammeled, undisciplined questioning of Wily Wiles is not over yet, and it is entirely outside the scope of this discovery. Who made the decision to rob us of Channel 8? Why and who had input into the decision? Your very words of March the 29th, 1996. I am so tired of these phony judges. In sum, Glendora asked this court to limit Mr. Wiles' rambling and circuitous and harassing and overbroad and overburdensome questioning and reduce it to reasonableness instead of raising your voice at me, abusing me, threatening me, and bullying me. You just don't know how to handle people, and that's to you, Judge Fox. Recall that you stood idly by and let these billionaire monopolist lawbreakers murder public access May the 1st, 1996. That's my birthday. Between our second and third conferences, you were on this case when the dastardly deed was done, you and Judge Rakoff, and you let it happen, and you haven't done anything since. And you haven't accomplished anything. It's a sad day for the American flag outside 300 Quaropas when the innocent and injured are injured more and the violators are coddled. Yours in truth, Glendora. I had finished that one at 5:39 a.m. on June the 19th, Wednesday. Poor Franklin is out there in the kitchen taking care of the groceries all alone. This is letter brief number 10. Glendora will try a third time to get through to this court on discovery disputes this court could not address on her post-conference May the 24th memorandum and on her conference June the 18th yesterday. Defendants have not produced the documents on how much money public access has cost them 1995 and 1996 to date. Wiles gave you his worthless word he would do this. This was on conference number 2, April the 19th, and you will let him go. Plaintiff requests this document. Defendants did not provide the articles in the trade papers about their robbing us of Channel 8 public access and all public access in 18 Heart of Westchester municipalities. Plaintiff requests these documents. Defendants were ordered to do this on April the 19th. With no help of the court and in spite of defendants lying and cover-up on this specific issue, Glendora has proof of defendant Paul J. O'Brien's death. Demise. The United States Marshal in Salt Lake City attempted personal service until he learned reliably of Mr. O'Brien's death. This caused a government shutdown in January for lack of funds to expend $100. With the protection of this court, Glendora found the home address of Robert F. Napie, Frank Sinatra Drive in Rancho Mirage, California. A discovery request covered up by defendants and shielded by the court. Defendants have provided no sworn statement as promised to the court after several failures that no such insurance coverage of Glendora's claims exists. Glendora wants to see their insurance policies for herself. In state court, some defendants said this and they were lying. The judge made them produce the policy and Glendora found out the truth. Also, Glendora has a right to ask the insurance company for settlement. Defendants have not followed this court's instructions on a 30B6 fact witness. The so-called fact witness did not provide the facts, and Wiles would not allow Glendora to extend her deposition time of the May 16th, 17th, 24 witnesses, as he is forcing Glendora to extend her time to another day. Westchester is a horrible place to live. They are so backward in Westchester, people can't even have public access to watch, thanks to the courts. TCI has taken television into yesterday. Yours in truth, Glendora Franklin is making the copies of these letter briefs to submit today, and this was finished on June the 19th, 1996 at 6:08 a.m. Now that's the first 10, folks. But, see another one lurking over here. Reply affidavit, Franklin Buell to motion to quash subpoena. We had to answer this in the car during driving to Manhattan to 500 Pearl Street, so the handwriting wobbles. We never objected, we never agreed. They were not scheduled. Defendants make the law and lied and covered up. First Wiles wants to stay discovery, now he wants to prolong it. If Glendora is deposed, Barry Marshall is to be deposed. Glendora received no subpoena. Saying it doesn't make it so. He's trying to push it through as a fact, as he has done all along. Get another lawyer in Westchester County, he sheds crocodile tears. What about the $1,602 that it has cost us, the 965 hours, and the $241,000 in legal labor? We didn't ask for it, they did. What is frivolous is their defense. Our cause is not frivolous when they broke the law like that and affected so many people. We did not break the law, we were robbed. There's no other caption. That Ben Wiles' right is long. There's no such party as he writes. There's no such party to the action. Now this is really crooked. And of course Fox will let it go. But Wiles says, I am an attorney and have appeared in this action on behalf of the defendant, UA Columbia Cablevision of Westchester. First of all, there is no such defendant. And he says certain of the other named defendants. Well, he has to name them. A lawyer should know better. You see how crooked he is? It's obvious that everything that Wiles says on this, Judge Fox knows, because Judge Fox signed the order to foreclose. And Ben Wiles just rambled on May 24th, and this is why he mumbles. He mumbles on purpose. The court doesn't know what he says, but the court grants it. Too embarrassed to ask. Ben Wiles railroads it through. Wiles writes it as if Franklin changed his mind, but Franklin never agreed in the first place. Wiles is devious. The subpoena is not filled in on the back, and to be official, it has to be filled in. Wiles never gave any reason for wanting to depose Franklin. He didn't do it timely. On March the 24th, on March the 29th, Judge Fox said, list submitted by May the 17th, scheduled by May the 24th. And he said this on March the 29th. Wiles wouldn't let Glendora depose Greco and Stiff and Caridio, and any program that I produce at TCI, I have a right to do what I want with. The court has a system making application, ruling on it, and that's that, and that's as far as it goes on the informer pauperist. Franklin had nothing to do with it. Mr. Buell attended the TCI Westchester depositions at the plaintiff's request. How does he know? And as a matter of fact, he's wrong. I didn't request him to do that. While the transcript from these deposition sessions has not yet been provided to me, Wiles says that Franklin agreed and Franklin did not agree. Wiles lies. In these discussions, Mr. Buell agreed to provide his deposition. That is a lie. Mr. Buell did no such thing. Mr. Buell changed his mind. Not at all. Mr. Buell never made up his mind. Glendora was not subpoenaed. Mr. Buell insists as the sole basis for his motion that he has no relevant information to provide at this deposition. Upon information and belief, Mr. Buell is an essential partner for the plaintiff. Well, it's none of his business, and he can't prove it. He is aware of the facilities she uses to produce these programs as well as the logistical arrangements she has made in the past. Well, that's not what this case is about. Crooked lawyers and corrupt judges. About other litigants. Judge Bryan said Glendora could bring an action anytime she felt it was necessary. All of these cable operators are trying to murder public access. It costs them money. Franklin objects because of personal time. Could bring an action anytime she felt it was necessary. All of these cable operators are trying to murder public access. It costs them money. Franklin objects because of personal time and personal life and improper questions. Franklin is a senior citizen, 77 years old. Franklin is a veteran and was D-Day to VE Day. Was Wiles? Franklin tried to preserve his country. Wiles is trying to ruin it. Motives are free speech, press, public access to TV, public forum, and educational and editorial control. We were going to eat our lunch. Instead, we had to do another TCI legal paper. Right now, I'd like to eat a dinner, but no, after I report to you on these things, I have to answer another Wiles TCI letter because we have crooked judges and corrupt, we have crooked lawyers and corrupt judges. Wiles writes duplication. J. Fox knows about the order to show cause. He signed it. The duplicated copy order to show cause is fee-sucking. He has the case here in Westchester, and I don't care whether he lives in Albany County or Schenectady County. He has to be here, and otherwise get a lawyer down here. If Glendora is deposed, Marshall has to be deposed. Wiles, no matter how Wiles is going to try to lie about this, it would take 40 hours a week to distribute Chat with Glendora to 20 municipalities. 40 hours a week, all that time, and I don't have the money to buy the videotapes to make the dubs. Upon information and belief, Mr. Buell may also be able to testify concerning the plaintiff in form of pauperism. I don't think so. That is not allowed. And he's not going to railroad that through. And class representative, that is not an issue yet because the court hasn't scheduled any hearing as to whether this is going to be certified as a class action. And the litigations and other lawsuits, that is not relevant. That is not relevant. And any statement she may have made concerning the motives and objectives of these actions. What was their motive in murdering public access? What was their objective? As the support staff for the production and distribution of the plaintiff's programs, Mr. Buell, well, that's hyperbole. Okay, it's hyperbole. Now, first he raises the question, and then in the next paragraph he takes it as fact. And he says it's so, and that's the way he does it. But here is a good one. Mr. Buell may also testify concerning viewer support and viewer interest in the plaintiff's programming. Well, now that's editorial control. It doesn't matter how the viewers are interested in the plaintiff's programming, because that's not what public access is all about. Whether the viewers are interested or not doesn't make any difference. and plaintiff's contacts and communications with viewers and other public access programmers, cable television system employees and public officials. Are you bored? So am I. Are you outraged? So am I. So that's all a matter of public record. Glendora has made it a public record, and he can listen to the audio tapes. Finally, it must be anticipated that Mr. Buell will likely be a witness on plaintiff's behalf. Because of this, his deposition must be taken to determine what, if anything, he may provide in testimony. He will provide nothing more or less than I have provided. Our testimony will be the same. Why does Franklin get a subpoena and Glendora does not? This ruined our lunch, TCI instead. This is a good sign. We have a strong case against them. They are so desperate. You can see how strong our case is against them. They are so desperate, and they are worried, and they are taking this precaution. Our facts are impregnable. Wiles got the order to show cause by Thursday morning, but he chose not to answer it until Friday night. So we did not get his answer until Monday noon. We have 5 days to answer. These depositions can be done by telephone. My 6 depositions were done by telephone. I don't want to spend my whole conference today on Wiles asking about depositions. He is trying to take over my conference on this foolishness and ruin my chance to bring up this book full of things. And it was a book. I had a whole book full of things to bring up to Judge Fox. And Judge Fox never heard one of them. And remember, Judge Fox never read my paper that I handed in, the post-conference memorandum of May 24th. And Wiles says, I declare under penalty of perjury under the laws of the United States of America that the foregoing is true and correct. Well, he should never have said that. Whether it is true and correct remains to be seen. And he's railroading again. He should say, I have told the truth to the best of my information and belief. But not this crooked liar. Schedule another conference, urgent matters, other than this. I have very good records, but I don't get a chance to read them. We were going to do business calls, but we had no chance because of the law-breaking, lying, and covering up of TCI and of Judge Fox not doing his job. We were going to send out Glendora happy books, but we had to do what I just said. We were going to pay the TCI bill, but we had to do what I just said. Franklin wanted to see his bank statement, but he said no chance because of the law-breaking of TCI, the lying of TCI, the covering up of TCI, and the inefficacy of our magistrate judge. We had no breakfast. Franklin was 155 pounds. That's too little for him. He's 6'1". But it's the lawbreakers, the lies, and the cover-ups, and the biased courts. Continental did not depose Glendora. Cablevision did not depose Glendora. And where did he get that information in on it, that Franklin is in on it? I think it proves collusion. I think he talks to Callaghan, I think he talks to Walsh, and I think they are guilty of conspiracy, Section 1985 of the Civil Rights Law, which is Title 42 United States Code. Well, Wiles actually had the nerve to ask me what happened at the Diane Rainey deposition, and that's another lawsuit. That's Glendora versus Continental. Can you imagine a lawyer being that stupid and that nervy? And so Franklin signed this, and he served it on Wiles. And he says, please take notice that pursuant to Rule 30 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, defendant UA Columbia Cable. That's not a defendant. No such defendant. And he says that DBA sued in this action as UACC Columbia Cablevision of Westchester Incorporated, DBA TCI Westchester. Well, they weren't sued. I didn't sue them, and Judge Connor forced me to put that on there and deceive me into doing it, and took advantage of my pro se status, Judge Connor, on January 23rd. Letter brief number 11, Glendora did not receive the proof she requested that WRNN qualifies as must carry, the reason given us for robbing public access of Channel 8. Glendora doubts that WRNN does qualify for must carry, nor did she receive the same proof from WNBC, so you can see they're lying and covering up again, Malone, Magnus, and TCI. Glendora has not received the technical audit done by the Public Service Commission. This court ordered defendants to produce the same. Glendora is uncertain today whether she will represent herself as an expert at trial. She has to find out what such representation entails. The information Franklin will give will be the same as Glendora's. We have lived through this tyranny over our civil rights together. Wiles, Malone, et al. Did not produce all documents mentioning or depicting, etc. Glendora. Yesterday, Wiles presented a public access agreement between Glendora and defendants. And here are two crooked cable companies, and I'm showing that to the world, Continental and TCI. Now, defendants completely failed to answer Glendora's second request for admissions in 30 days from the date of issue, April the 27th, 1996, pursuant to Rule 36. The truth of the matters is taken as admitted. Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. The request to admit was served on each defendant on their lawyer and submitted to the court on April the 27th, 1996 at a print and post cost of $100. Admissions are taken as admitted, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 36. Defendants did not produce voicemail tapes under document request number 6. Produce all tapes. Defendants did not answer the questions regarding privileged documents as listed in Glendora's instructions prefacing the document request. Defendants never produced all documents relating to Glendora's mentioning depicting by franchise authority. Excuse me, defendants have foolishly provided just the index and dividers of the public files and not the information in these categories. Glendora has been ignored in her request to inspect the public access file. She did this at both Continental and Cablevision. Glendora does not want the public access files reproduced on sheets and sheets of paper. She wants to go there and see the files herself and pick out the few pieces that she needs copies of. Glendora is armed with books, not guns. Yours in truth, Glendora, and that was written on June the 19th, Wednesday at 6:40 p.m. This is discovery letter brief number 13. Glendora renews her application to depose Richard Wadman, who became general manager for the cable system in Westchester on April 1st, 1996, and was in charge of on May the 1st, 1996, when the dastardly deed was done, the murder of public access. Defendants have not complied with the court's order to provide the minutes of their meetings with the municipalities, when, who present, and what was said. Rule 30 says that Mr. Wiles is not supposed to answer Glendora's questions, that the defendants are. Glendora asked for sanctions on lawyer for violating this rule, and Wiles faces defendants might, and Wiles fears that the defendants might slip and tell the truth. Glendora, pursuant to Rule 37A and B, will be moving for sanctions on failure of defendants on documents and interrogatories. Glendora was seen and heard in Central Westchester system-wide for 8 years, Tuesdays 9 to 9:30 p.m. since May the 1st, 1996. She has not been seen or heard in 18 municipalities, and this court has done nothing to stop this wrong. Plaintiff wants to know if defendants robbed public access of Channel 8 to get the municipalities to bear the brunt of lawsuits regarding obscene public access. Glendora wants to see the leased access file. Notice that the defendants robbed public access of Channel 8 because public access costs money, but they left Channel 10 intact because they get $250 to $500 per half hour for leased access that they sell. Nobody else who added WRNN did what Malone, Magnus, TCI, et al. did. Rob the public access producers of their system-wide channel they have had for years. How much does a written transcript of these Judge Fox conferences cost? Glendora suspects Wiley Wiles is colluding with Callagy Cablevision and with Continental Lawyer and ganging up on her, yet the court will not allow Glendora to telephone her defendants, another violation of free speech inside a free speech case. Remember, public access is all volunteer. We do it out of public interest, and it costs us money. Glendora. And that was written on June 19th, Wednesday at 7:12 a.m. This is letter brief number 14. And there's number 15, and these were just handed in today, number 16, number 17, and number 18. Glendora's letters to experts went out on June the 17th, 1996, Monday. Glendora wants compensatory and punitive damages. Glendora notices that the court, she may amend her January the 3rd, 1946 complaint to include violation of Title 42 of the United States Code, Section 1825, conspiracy. Glendora is asking for both compensatory and punitive damages, double for both federal and state. She has been studying Sands jury charges armed with books. Just changing the format to two-page letter briefs is not a fair nor mature reason to ignore your duty and not read the plaintiff's post-conference made the 24th memorandum. You know, the public knows more of what's going on in this case than the judge, because these papers are read to you on TV and the judge doesn't read the paper. So you, the public, know more about this case than Judge Fox. Judge Van Grapelen ruled that Glendora's case cannot be dismissed unless it is proved beyond doubt her claims cannot be substantiated. Judge Fox's threat yesterday was inappropriate, dismissing her case on procedure. It is Gestapo, it is autocratic, and it is un-American. And here is the proof of Paul J. O'Brien's death as attained by the U.S. Marshal. Mr. O'Brien is deceased. And Mr. Welch, who is the publisher of the Kearns Tribune Corporation, attests to that. Neither the court nor the defendants, now this is the letter 17, have followed local rules about settlement. Glendora never got a chance to bring it up in court. Judge Fox and Ben Wiles are always cutting her off. Both Judge Fox and Ben Wiles are pro se about television. CPLR New York State Statutes, Article 30 says a witness in deposition cannot be forced to testify against herself, and Ben Wiles did that 3.5 hours straight. Glendora is looking forward to telling the jury all that happened and is hoping for Lieutenant Anna's verdict. This court accepts too much wild hearsay. This court should have hearings, swear in witnesses, and take testimony. Any lie that Ben Wiles recites, this court falls for. It is hearsay within hearsay, as the federal rules of evidence call it. It is not a court, it is a sewing circle or a beauty salon where the gossip alone is enough to curl your hair. Glendora listened to the audio tapes of all 4 conferences, March the 29th, April the 19th, May the 13th, and May the 24th. Saturday and Sunday, and one time Judge Fox couldn't remember what he said 30 seconds ago and told Glendora to buy the transcript. Glendora gave him one word of it she caught, and this cued his memory. Since Flag Day, our flags have been flying to the east and to the west. Let's be good Americans and support the United States Constitution and the rights Congress has given us. Finesse. Yours in truth, Glendora. 965 hours, $1,600, $241,000 in legal labor, 75 chapters, 1/2 hour each on TV, 6,286 pages, 18 volumes, and 28 weeks of intense emotional disturbance. Judge Fox can give it, but he can't take it. Small man in stature is overly defensive and protective of his authority. No grace, no certainty, no sureness. He needs to be constantly reinforced that he is the boss. This is a suicide court. He is ruining his career. If Judge Fox will not read and listen, Glendora will have to go to the sidewalk and tell the people. They read and they listen. This is what she did with Jay Raycock, who would not do his job. Judge Fox has an overblown concept of his status as a judge. He forgets he is a public servant. Judges should not have temper fits. A black robe does funny things to a person's ego. Judge Fox did not read Glendora's post-conference memorandum, but it was read on TV. The public knows what is in it, and he does not. You see, what makes the answers to Wiles' incessant questions, other than the fact he knows the answer to every question he asks, is that he is such a sleaze. The deponent knows Wiles is going to use everything that the deponent says against him. Also, he isn't after discovery, he is after whatever he can find in his desperation to persecute a witness. Glendora never treated her deponents that way. The breakdown of Franklin under this cruel and inhumane treatment was sad to see. The clerks were all asking today how Franklin felt and if he had recovered. Franklin isn't like that. He isn't at all like that, said one clerk, who likes Franklin very much, as they all do. You best tame this wild man Wiles, Judge Fox. We never have any free time, any relaxed time, or any time off. There's always a legal paper to do, a conference, or a deposition. Franklin spoke very well before Judge Fox. Judge Fox ruled against Glendora all morning long, and it is not right. And Franklin is still printing letter briefs, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And this one was written on June 19, 96, Wednesday at 6:29 p.m. And this is the next to the last letter brief. Glendora dreams of a judge like this. Integrity, good character, sound physical and mental health, commitment to equal justice under the law, outstanding legal ability and competence, substantial legal experience, ability to deal with complex legal problems, aptitude for legal scholarship and writing, familiarity with courts and court processes, demeanor, character, and personality indicate that they would exhibit judicial temperament if appointed to the position of a United States judge. I dream of that. An Austining fan called today and asked for Glendora Happy Book. His father went to high school with Charles L. Bryant, Jr. He told Glendora for 30 minutes a whole lot about Judge Bryant. Nassau people called Glendora and talked for 40 minutes at a time about lawyers, judges, and cable operators. This is the last letter brief. Today, Franklin and Glendora went to the Cablevision annual meeting in Woodbury, and this in New York, and one of Glendora's Nassau fans stood up and said, "I'm Peter Wunsch, I'm a shareholder, and I nominate Glendora as a director." Another Nassau fan rose and said, "I'm Carl Ancesara, and I second the nomination." The look on Charles Dolan's face was something to behold. Glendora talked to Charles amicably before the meeting, and this I have already reported to you. And so I write to Judge Fox and tell him that I think that Cablevision is going to settle, and that I think that this is going to have an effect on Continental and TCI, but they will settle. So Glendora says, we wish to apologize for any of the incidents that have offended you. We will go about the depositions fully and speedily and take Wiles' wild and wily abuse and get them over with. We are right to fight for our rights. We are right to oppose the law-breaking monopolists. But we will be obsequious, subservient, fawning, and all those things that you seem to require in life to make you feel important and to fill your black robe, even though if you want our respect, you have to earn it with intelligent, impartial, just decisions and orders for the good of America, not for the gobbling, greedy, grubby media monopolists. That's pretty good. Not for the gobbling, greedy, grubby media monopolists. We have said our piece. We are ready now for all your slings, insults, threats, and temper fits. Again, we apologize for any offenses. We want to get on with the case and crack this one the way we think we have Cablevision. We have a good start. We send Malone a log and legal papers every week. That's how we beat Cablevision before. Glendora sued Telecommunications Incorporated, Malone, Magnus et al. For censoring her program April 30th, 1996, 9:08 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., turning down the audio just as Judge Connor came on the phone and said, "Now look, Glendora, this is a straight censorship case and should move fast. The United States Marshals served the summons and complaint on June the 18th, 1996, while we were tied up with TCI, reply affidavits, Fox conference, deposition of Glendora, and our 2:30 p.m. trip up north. A United States District Judge, Southern District of New York, downtown, has the case. Glendora has a new judge and a new magistrate, and this suit will get her defendants back, and as soon as possible she will apply for home addresses. It's pretty sad when a judge and a clerk can't read a name on a partial. And this is Jerome Great and Judge Fox. They can't read it, they just can't read a caption. This is not Glendora versus Marshall, it is Glendora versus Malone. And today, from Ben Wiles, I haven't had time to read it or to answer it, but I do want to tie this in because I don't want to start out next week's report with this last minute nonsense. But he writes 3 pages, and you see he's a judge. Wiles thinks he's a judge, right? Now he's defied the court says 2 pages, but he'll get by with it. The court will say, oh, that's all right. In the case of Glendora, when Glendora didn't write it in 2 pages, Judge Fox wouldn't read it. He wants to schedule another deposition. After the conference, the deposition of the plaintiff Glendora was continued in the deposition room at about 2:00 p.m. after re-raising. Isn't that great English? Re-raising. Did you see that, Franklin? Yeah. Did you see what Wiles wrote here? After re-raising. Really? Re-raising? Yes, re-raising. Objections to certain questions on which I believe the court had already ruled. The plaintiff asked that these objections be taken up again with the court. Well, if he's going to go through all that I've told you, I'm not going to bother to read it to you. And we went back to the deposition room, and she indicated that, and he can't spell, oh, Franklin, did you know he didn't spell your name right? Did you spell my name? No, no. And Mr. Buell had already told Judge Fox that he had to leave at 2:30 p.m., and Judge Fox accepted that. Yes, I was out of the county on Wednesday. I was in Nassau at the Cablevision annual meeting. He asked for dates, and I said that I had to think about those dates, and I had to look up things, and I had to check things over. You just can't give dates without checking things over. And I would not agree to the deposition at 11 a.m. on June the 24th. Why should I? And he can't spell Franklin's name right. How many times have we told him it's Franklin with a Y? And he already knows that I have to edit at White Plains, and I got a whole lot of editing to do this Monday. How many times have we told him it's Franklin with a Y? And he already knows that I have to edit at White Plains, and I got a whole lot of editing to do this Wendy. Remember, you heard the audio tape. Judge Fox has already ruled on this. And Mr. Buell has to attend. Experts letter. We sent out about 10 of them on Monday, and Jonathan Arnold from TKR, Public Access, is the first to respond. And this is his report. My name is Jonathan R. Arnold, and I am the Public Access Coordinator of TKR Cable Company's Public Access System. I have held this position for the past 3 years. TKR serves 70,000 households in its Rockland and Ramapo systems, all of which receive public access programming. I am familiar with the defendant's decision to delete, that would be the Crooks, Malone, Magnus, and TCI, to delete access programming, and am continuing to monitor the situation. To my knowledge, all cable systems are required by the federal law to provide a channel or channels to be used by the public who reside in that cable company's franchise area. This free of charge service is provided on a first-come, first-served basis to producers who provide commercial-free programming to their respective cable television stations. In addition to this, the cable company is prohibited to exercise any editorial control over any public access program except in the instance of lewd and/or obscene programming. Those standards are determined and set forth by a municipality's legislative process. Pursuant to the above laws regarding public access television programming, it is my opinion that by deleting system-wide access programs on Channel 8, the defendant is in breach of FCC federal law. Jonathan Arnold. Isn't that well stated? Good for you, Jonathan. We need people with a little backbone and courage. He goes ahead and does it anyway. He reserves the room. He goes ahead and does it anyway. Elizabeth Hubbard, a court reform organization called the Fund for Modern Courts, which I call the Fund for Ancient Courts, and she was the executive director, and she broke every court rule there was, practically. It's a disgrace, and it's one of the worst cases of hypocrisy that I've ever seen, and of fraud. Okay, and it was handled fraudulently by the Appellate Division, State of New York, Supreme Court, Second Department by Mangano, and by Pizzuto, and by Miller, and by Ritter. They are all crooked. And by Colabella, and by a clerk named Mallon, and by a clerk named Raymond Powell. And so last Monday, I wrote a motion to the New York State Court of Appeals, and I asked for leave to appeal the erroneous decision order of the Appellate Division, Second Department. Their decisions are always erroneous. They have no idea what they're doing. None at all. They never rule on the facts, they never rule on the law, and they never read the case, they never understand it, and they can't even write a decision intelligently in plain English. And so that was, the briefs were shipped out to the New York State Court of Appeals on Monday at a cost of $3. And so nothing's going to happen there on that for 10 weeks. But that's Elizabeth Hubbard Alan Beck, Michelle Mayapath, and the Fund for Ancient Courts. Beware. Oh, and this is a consumer warning. Never use the Appellate Division 2nd Department. It is dangerous for your health. They should put warnings on these courts the way they do on cigarette packages. And then as far as Gelman, I stopped into the appellate term, and they're all shut down for 2 months. Okay, all these courts loaf. Yet they get paid every week. Your money. And so they're not going to do anything until September, the day after Labor Day. What a sham. And that covers it. And that covers it for the week off June the 13th to today, June the 20th. And we'll have 2 or 3 jokes. And then we will hang up our hats and be back together on June 27th. But when I said to my future wife, I'm not much to look at, she said, oh, that's all right, dear. You'll be in the office most of the time. And Peter says, I wouldn't, no, Diane said to Peter, I wouldn't marry you if you were the last man on earth. And Peter said, I know, honey, you'd get killed in the rush. Now, the girl said to the boy on their first date, has anyone ever told you how wonderful you are? And he said, no. And she says, well, where'd you get the big idea? So now we have something for all of you judges. So then every one of us shall give account of himself before God. Romans 14:12. You take care. God bless you. And don't let people trample over your rights. Keep a good America. Stand up for the Stars and Stripes forever. And let the others be traitors to their country. But don't you be. 2, 1.
Yes, my name is Carl Lanzasera, and I'm a sponsor of Chat with Glendora. I feel that I endorse the show and endorse what goes on. It's very important that the public be aware of the facts that Glendora presents, and we hope that the show continues as long as possible. Many people, of course, watch the show, and we would hope that it continues a long time into the future. And anyone wants to call me, my office number is 421-4499 to discuss it further.
Start off this week's reports from June 20th to today, June the 27th, Thursday to Thursday. And Peter said he took the young lady to dinner and he asked her, how do you like your rice? Fried, boiled? And she said, thrown. And John said, when I said to my future wife, I'm not much to look at, she said, oh, that's okay, dear, you'll be in the office most of the day. And Donald took out a young lady named Donna, and Donna said, did anybody ever tell you how wonderful you are? And Donald says, no. And Donna says, where did you get the big idea? First report up is a neighbor-to-neighbor fight. We've learned a lot from this, and over the television has helped a lot to control it. Don't do anything that you don't want reported on the front page of the New York Times. In a landlord-tenant situation, have you joined the New York Neighbors and Tenants Association? I wish that you would, and it's in Manhattan, and I don't have the telephone number here with me now. I would report that The Walshes are moving at the end of July. That's 2 down, and it's 3 to go. Excuse me, it's 2 down and 1 to go. And I saw Bruce Bendish in the lobby of the county courthouse, and he was with a man and a woman who probably were clients. And I said to Bruce Bendish, eyeball to eyeball, I'm very glad you lost that lawsuit. He lost $550,000 in damages to the former sheriff of Nassau County and another former sheriff of Nassau County, Colinari. And Bruce Bendish was their lawyer, and he was their defense, and Lieutenant Annis won on sexual harassment. So what happened at 21 Greenwich Avenue? A man called from Ossining. His father went to school with Charles L. Bryant Jr., who was a U.S. District Judge, Southern District of New York here in White Plains. And the summer solstice came on Friday. Isn't that nice? The longest day of the year. And the landlord was here walking. He didn't seem to have a truck. Nella walked east on the driveway and looked into Glendora's window. And Glendora looked at Nella because Glendora was out in the woods. And Mr. Young did a terrible thing. He murdered 3 trees in the woods. He wanted the sun to get to his garden. So he went over to another person's property and he murdered 3 trees, just like that. We complained to him about it. He said he was sorry. He said he wouldn't do it again. And then he trimmed the trees and trampled down a whole lot more greenery. And these woods, now they're woods. It used to be a field, but it's the prettiest it ever has been. The growth is lush and that beautiful early summer green. And he just ruined it. And it's on somebody else's property. Now there was a case in Judge Cowie's court just a month ago where a neighbor did the same thing, went over and cut down 3 trees on his neighbor's property. And now the lawbreaker has to pay $10,000, and he may even have to pay treble damages. The jury ruled in favor of the neighbor who was injured by having his trees cut down. And he would give all kinds of reasons why he cut down the trees, that he waters the lawn here. What's that got to do with cutting down the trees, right? And I said that that doesn't matter, and he says, no, it never matters to a woman, and that's a sexist remark. He's ruined the view. And when Glendora sat in the woods yesterday, she noticed that 2 of the trees had been murdered, and he murdered the 3rd one on Saturday. It's an outrageous trespass. And Saturday, Franklin and I went to Springfield, Massachusetts to Glendora's 50th high school reunion. It was 5.5 hours the week of June 17th, and it was $4.52 spent on Walsh, Pucci, and Larkin, and there's 2,361 tortious acts, 3,882. No, that would be last week. Let me read you this week's. 889 pages of bad record, 31 volumes of bad record, 181 bad TV reports. I guess this is number 182. It's gone on for 3 years, 1 month. This is exhibit 110, this log for June the 24th week. And 238 mailings. Roberta Walsh calling Glendora a witch several times on Flag Day, June the 14th, when we all should be good Americans, was on television Monday night, Channel 14 at 7:20 p.m. There was one call and it was an immediate hang-up. And also on the TV was the do-nothing of the White Plains Police and the White Plains Fire Department about the barbecue fumes. There haven't been any barbecue fumes since those two incidents. Glendora wrote a letter to Governor Pataki on Monday as Franklin was doing the driving. Glendora sat in the back seat and wrote this letter to Governor Pataki. The White Plains Division of Housing and Community Renewal is a disaster. We made a complaint for furnace failure, no heat and no hot water, on dozens of counts, and we documented the same, and a complaint of water on the cellar floor, 1 inch deep, and videotaped the same. We exchanged about 20 reports with the New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal and the landlord. The dumb New York State DHCR inspector got here after 6 months. He said the complaints were A, leak under the sink, and B, no hot water. Now how stupid can you get? The inspector looked under the sink and there was no leak. Then he ran the hot water over a thermometer and it tested fine. Are you kidding, Governor Pataki? Are you going to put up with this? Morgan and Levine at the White Plains, New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal, took the complaints. Fire them. Fire the inspector. And we still have no hot water at 5 a.m. and we still have 7 to 8 puddles in the cellar every time it rains. And thanks to your $1 million landlord lobby, we have to pay $28 a month extra for this new furnace that broke down on us something like 20 times, and that was installed before we ever moved in here. Glendora reports on this DHCR stupidity and crookedness every week on TV on New York cable TV systems. And also, I sued the DHCR twice. And the judges are politically motivated and they just rule in favor of themselves and their friends. So we're totally without justice in Westchester County. Here's today's joke. Bob brags, I have a job on the cutting edge of technology. And his mother-in-law says, yes, he mows the lawn at IBM. Dated White Plains, New York, June the 24th, 1996. Yours in truth, Glendora. To the local district rent administrator, that would be at 55 Church Street, White Plains, or 50 Church Street maybe. Now, that's as far as I got on that letter. It needs to be corrected, and the substantiation has to be found. And then it has to be printed, and the envelopes have to be made, and then it has to be shipped off. So that's the end of the report on law-breaking, lying, and covering up, neighbor to neighbor, neighbor to landlord, landlord-tenant. And the next matter we go on to is a White Plains story, and that is the matter of Officer James Stead, malicious prosecution, saying that I went through a red light when I didn't. And where does that stand now, and what happened on that this week? I finally got in touch with Mr. Cahill, who is the chief clerk of the appellate term, and my question that I wrote to the judge, Judge DiPaolo, was since I was in forma pauperis in the Westchester County Supreme Court, when I asked for an order to stay all proceedings in the White Plains Court pending the determination of my appeal, since I was in forma pauperis in the Supreme Court in Westchester, doesn't that in forma pauperis carry over into the same Supreme Court, the New York Supreme Court, in the appellate term? And so that has gone before the judges. The judges will make a decision. the clerk will send a copy to Glendora, and Glendora said as things go in the summertime, how long would that be? At the tops, it would be 2 weeks. So the Officer Stead malicious prosecution has cost Glendora 87.5 hours and $83.26. So we finished that report, and now you deserve 3 jokes. And Ed says that my daughter is searching for the perfect guy, and I keep telling her, give up, honey, your mother got the last one. And the second day of a diet is always much easier than the first, because the second day you go off of it. And the dentist, Joe said to his dentist, Doc, you still haven't pulled the right tooth. And the dentist says, no, but I'm getting closer. Franklin served the city of White Plains a lawsuit, Brian Sussman versus TCI, the city of White Plains, the city of New Rochelle, and the county of Westchester. And it was well taken care of in the Corporation Counsel's office. We're happy to say that. They did their duty, accepted it, and signed for it. Then Franklin went over to the county of Westchester to serve Marilyn Slatton, and she would not appear, and a senior deputy county attorney appeared, but they would not sign for it. You would think that a lawyer would know that. You would think that a lawyer representing the county of Westchester would know enough to do that. So all they did was stamp it, no signature. But Franklin has an affidavit of service saying the man's name and the time and his description. I think that's a pretty bad way for a county to act. Now he has 2 more to serve. That will be TCI and the city of New Rochelle. And this, of course, is a lawsuit about the murdering of public access on Channel 8. My lawsuit on that matter is for $350 million, and it's against Malone, Magnus, and TCI. In fact, I have 2. I have another one that's Glendora versus Telecommunications Incorporated, and that is about the absolute censorship of turning down the audio when I was reporting on Judge Fox, when I was reporting on Judge Connor about Judge Connor's being biased and prejudiced, and he was caught red-handed in that. Next, I'm going to tell you about going to Springfield, Massachusetts, Classical High School, on the 50th reunion of my high school graduating class. I told them a bunch of jokes, and I recorded it for you, and it was really nice, everything that happened. So I'll tell you about that sometime. And now, folks, we're going to report to you about the law breaking of Cablevision Systems Corporation, Charles Dolan, John Carter, William Quinn, and all the other names that you see up on the screen. This is volume 36. We're going to try to make it last until July 1st, the first half of the year. And but there's really more volumes in there. It's actually volume 41 with Bad Record. And a quick synopsis here is that Glendora was reporting on the bad record of James Picken, Commissioner of Consumer Affairs, Nassau County, letting Scott Lord operate a consumer affairs business without a consumer affairs license, not protecting you consumers of Nassau County. And it was done under the full knowledge of Thomas Galata, and because Mr. Galata and I had exchanged several letters about it. And Mr. Galata told Mr. Picken to do something about it, and Mr. Picken never did. So, on information and belief, Glendora says that Mr. Picken or others pressured Cablevision to get these bad reports and true reports off of TV. And Cablevision, in its ignorance and its arrogance, took the program off TV, breaking two laws. Well, breaking many laws, but the two biggest ones were Title 47 of the United States Code 531E, no cable operator should exercise editorial control over public use of channels. These channels are your channels. Cablevision does not have a designated public access channel, which they should have. They make us share it with Telecare. We don't have our own public access channel. We should have. There should be a channel there on Cablevision that belongs to you, the public. And public access TV means exactly what it says. You, the public, have an access to TV. It's a public forum. So they took it off, and I sued them for $31 million, and I won. The United States District Court ruled that Glendora, it didn't matter whether she lives in Nassau County or not. It doesn't matter whether she lives in Long Island or not, that they broke this rule, 531E, this law, and by exercising editorial control, taking the program off. It was off for 9 months. The Westchester County Supreme Court, New York Supreme Court ordered that the show be put back on TV, that plaintiff has a statutory right to have the program on TV. It was. Judge Bryant also ruled that Glendora has a private right of enforcement to enforce this law. She doesn't have to go to the FCC or the New York State Cable Commission. So we got up to trial. I was bringing the lawbreakers to trial, and that would include the names that you see on the screen. And the trial was to start on March the 4th to pick the jury, and Judge Bryant stayed the trial, and he sent it back to the Westchester County Supreme Court, and that's where it is today. And Cablevision is trying to get out of it with a very weak and stupid argument that Glendora is not a resident of Long Island. Well, Glendora now has a Long Island address, and you see the address on the TV screen, and you see the telephone numbers there. So call me up at those numbers and write me at that address. So that, in brief form, is what has happened. And we have some very fine endorsements from people in Long Island about a chat with Glendora, how they like the show, and how the show is an inspiration to them, and how you have to challenge authority when authority abuses its power. That's really what it comes down to. And I think I'm going to read you the stats. Reporting on the bad record of James Picken, Commissioner of Consumer Affairs, Nassau County, letting Scott Lord operate a consumer affairs business without a consumer affairs license, not protecting you consumers of Nassau County. And it was done under the full knowledge of Thomas Galata, and because Mr. Galata and I had exchanged several letters about it. And Mr. Galata told Mr. Picken to do something about it, and Mr. Picken never did. So, on information and belief, Glendora says that Mr. Picken or others pressured Cablevision to get these bad reports and true reports off of TV. And Cablevision, in its ignorance and its arrogance, took the program off TV, breaking two laws. Well, breaking many laws, but the two biggest ones were Title 47 of the United States Code 531E, no cable operator should exercise editorial control over public use of channels. These channels are your channels. Cablevision does not have a designated public access channel, which they should have. They make us share it with Telecare. We don't have our own public access channel. We should have. There should be a channel there on Cablevision that belongs to you, the public. And public access TV means exactly what it says. You, the public, have an access to TV. It's a public forum. So they took it off, and I sued them for $31 million, and I won. The United States District Court ruled that Glendora, it didn't matter whether she lives in Nassau County or not, it doesn't matter whether she lives in Long Island or not, that they broke this rule 531E, this law, and by exercising editorial control, taking the program off. It was off for 9 months. The Westchester County Supreme Court, New York Supreme Court ordered that the show be put back on TV, that plaintiff has a statutory right to have the program on TV. It was. Judge Bryant also ruled that Glendora has a private right of enforcement to enforce this law. She doesn't have to go to the FCC or the New York State Cable Commission. So we got up to trial. I was bringing the lawbreakers to trial, and that would include the names that you see on the screen. And the trial was to start on March the 4th to pick the jury, and Judge Bryant stayed the trial, and he sent it back to the Westchester County Supreme Court, and that's where it is today. And Cablevision is trying to get out of it with a very weak and stupid argument that Glendora is not a resident of Long Island. Well, Glendora now has a Long Island address, and you see the address on the TV screen, and you see the telephone numbers there. So call me up at those numbers and write me at that address. So that, in brief form, is what has happened. And we have some very fine endorsements from people in Long Island about a chat with Glendora, how they like the show, and how the show is an inspiration to them, and how you have to challenge authority when authority abuses its power. That's really what it comes down to. And I think I'm going to read you the stats and tell you what's in this file for the last week. We're reporting from June the 20th to June the 27th today, Thursday to Thursday. And the number of hours spent on this lawbreaking and the lying about it and the covering up about it is 29 3/4 hours last week. And the number of dollars is $104.53. I can't get the microphone out of the drawer when I told you all that. So let me now go. Let me get you the whole picture, how much it is in lawyers' fees or lawyers' work. The total time Cablevision lawbreaking, lying and covering up has cost me in 2.5 years since this thing started is 2,966.5 hours. And you multiply that by $250, which is what these crooked rip-off lawyers get, and that comes out to $741,625 in lawyers' work that I've had to do. And it's cost us $6,169.33 in printing and in postage and in court fees and paying for court stenographers' minutes, which is another huge, terrible ripoff that we've got to get rid of. You should be able to take your recorder into the court and make your own report, and it wouldn't cost you anything. But you go into court, and the average cost is $500 for the stenographer's minutes. It's 42 volumes of bad Cablevision record, and it's 289 mailings and 2.5 years. Now, it doesn't tell you here how many bad TV reports there have been. And I should be able to tell you that right away, because this is numbered. Oh, it's perfect file. I think this is something like 270 bad TV reports. It's 266. This is the 266 half-hour bad TV report about this law-breaking, lying, and covering up. You would know the number better than I am because you're seeing the show after it's edited, and I don't see it. And I'm doing it now before it's edited, and the number's not on the screen. One of your neighbors and friends, and he has a message for you. you know that story. So if you would, if you see me around Long Island, I always carry a camera. I always carry a recorder of some type. Hail me down, and if you want to make an endorsement for a chat with Glendora, it's a good idea. So we'll do it. And I have one later on in the program to show you, an endorsement by Carl Lancesera of Huntington. Saturday, Franklin drove me to Springfield, Massachusetts for the 50th reunion of my high school graduating class. I was the class president, and it was really nice, the things that were said and the jokes that were told and the laughter. And I will tell you about that. I don't know if it'll be in the Long Island edition or not. But going up and coming back, and while waiting, I had a chance to read the jury charges that I'm going to write, and they will be given to Judge Bryant, and Judge Bryant will read these jury charges to the jury. They will be as to what Cablevision did in violating my civil rights, rights given to me by the Constitution of the United States and by Congress, and their reckless disregard for my federal rights. And that's Title 1983, and I've already been awarded compensatory damages, and I will ask the jury for punitive damages because of this reckless disregard of my federal rights. It's so stupid of them to do that, what they did. So that was on Saturday. I had a chance to read on that. I do that 15 minutes a day, try to work out the jury charge. And let's see, Sunday we went to we had a party with the Folsoms. Merrill is 93, Eleanor is 92. They've been married 73 years. We didn't have time to celebrate their birthdays and their anniversaries, nor our own, because of so many legal papers to write. But this last weekend was the first weekend in years, months, that I haven't had to write a legal paper. So we caught up on that, and we celebrated 8 things. Their birthdays, our birthdays, their anniversary, and our anniversaries. 41 and 73 makes 74. That makes 104 years, doesn't it? 114 years of married life. That was Saturday and Sunday. Then came Monday. And Monday, Franklin and I went out to Huntington, to our address there, 1395 New York Avenue. Huntington Station, rear apartment, 11746. And I took care of a lot of things there, spent the day in Nassau. And then we went from Huntington Station over to Woodbury, One Media Crossways, the headquarters of Cablevision. And I had this flyer. I had 50 of these flyers, and Franklin and I handed out the flyers to the people as they came along in cars, and to the people who exited the Cablevision building. Of course, there are several Cablevision buildings out there. This is the News 12 building, and my flyer says, Glendora wants inside information how Cablevision defendants took her program off TV on November the 12th, 1993. If you have any inside information, and would you please bear this in mind, about this matter, will you please call this number, 914-949-9495. Your name will never be mentioned. If you saw anything or heard anything about Cablevision taking Glendora's program off TV, or about Cablevision and Glendora in any respect, please call. This is Glendora against Cablevision Systems Corporation, Charles F. Dolan, William J. Bell, Mark A. Lusgarten, Francis F. Randolph Jr., John Tata, James A. Kofalt, Joseph Osnara, Thomas Gardner, and William Quinn. Glendora's hypotheses are that a government or political official exerted pressure on a Cablevision person or persons to take her program off TV because Glendora was reading the bad but true record of said government or political official every week on TV. Yours in truth, Glendora. And it has Bob Hope's picture on the back. So we're standing there at One Media Crossways, and we are handing out the flyers. And a man exited the Cablevision building, and he came down the walk to the curb, and I handed him a flyer, and he was very well tailored. And I commented on how nice his suit looked. And I'm passing out the flyers, and then a car comes along, and this car is a small Mercedes. And so I'm handing out the flyers, and I hand out the flyers to the passenger, and the passenger was that man in the handsome suit. And then I passed out a flyer to the driver, and the driver was Charles Dolan. And he says, "Glendora, what are you doing out here? You looking for a job?" And I said, "No." And I'm handing out the flyers, and I handed one to Charles Dolan, such as I just read to you, and he read it, some of it. And I said, "Oh, Charles, I did not congratulate you on your being appointed president of the Oscars." Charles Dolan is now president of the Motion Picture Academy of Arts and Sciences, and I guess he will be coming out on the TV at the start of the program. He won't be handing out the Oscars, that goes to the MC, but a cable operator is president of the Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. So I congratulated him on that. I should have asked him to settle the lawsuit. But it was pretty funny. It really was funny. So we finished handing out the flyers, and it was very hot. But it was a beautiful summer day. We're thankful for that, because the last time we were out there handing out flyers, it was in February, and wow, that was a fierce, fierce wind, and it was something like 9 degrees. So those are the two extremes. And from there, we went to Hicksville and handed in the videotape for June the 28th, and picked up the one that was cablecast on June the 21st, and told jokes all the way around. And Diane Bennett wasn't in, and Thomas Gardner wasn't in, reportedly, and Jeff Clark handed the videotape, and he's a big, handsome man. And then we went to the Board of Elections. Oh my, that is so bad, the Board of Elections, on County Seat Drive in Mineola. And we asked to see all of the files on the Oyster Bay Town Republican Committee from 1983 to 1996. Excuse me, from 1993 to 1996, the present. Wow, there's lots of things that people out there don't want us to see, or you to see, or anybody else to see. So the first excuse was, "Oh, we can't find anybody to sign this. The Democrat has to sign it, and the Republican has to sign it." "No, we can't find anybody to sign it. When will they be in?" "Oh, we don't know when they will be in." "Oh, you could have called us on the phone and told us." That would have given them time to take out the pieces they don't want the public to see. And then the next excuse was, "The Freedom of Information Law gives us 5 days to find this." So it was just an out-and-out refusal to show us the public information. And it was an out-and-out cover-up. What are they hiding? So we will go back and we will pursue this further. And why weren't they in? That was a bad lie, because it was 2:22 in the afternoon, 2:18, 2:10, around there. They should have been on the job, the people to sign it. So you see, they walked around, and Bob Berry was part of this, and Bob Berry is abusive, as always. So there will be more reports on that. You go out there and you try to cure one evil, which is the dereliction, and that apparently is not just the Department of Consumer Affairs that's bad, it's not just the District Attorney's Office that's bad, with Stephen I. Race not prosecuting Scott Lord for a bounced check. I guess all the departments are going to be bad, right? So now it's the Board of Elections that's using very questionable tactics. From there, Mineola, is there a better way to get to the northern state than going all the way up Willis Avenue and the 45 traffic lights? Is there a better way? That's what we did, and we got on the LIE at that point, and we went west to Manhattan. Very noisy traffic, huge tie-ups, broken down vehicles, extremely hot. And then from there we went to Manhattan Cable TV and handed in a chat with Glendora, that edition there. There's 3 editions or more, the Westchester edition, the Long Island edition, and the Manhattan edition. And you try to keep them separate, but you can't help it, they overlap. I don't write the news, I just report it. I don't know how much news there's going to be one week in one area. So you just report it, and sometimes the reports overlap. And that's not good because your interest is the Long Island edition. One nice young fan from Long Island, I've got him to go into public access. I've got quite a few people to have their own public access programs, and you must too. It is your right, regardless of what Cablevision says. And he said, you are my inspiration. So that's good. I wish to inspire you to go on TV and have your public forum. Now, I am going to pay you right now a testimonial statement from Carl Lancezera, who lives in Huntington. So let us part right now and try to find that on 2,137 videotapes, half hour each, but let's go find it and play it for you. It's excellent.
Yes, my name is Carl Lancezera, and I'm a sponsor of Chat with Glendora. I feel that I endorse the show and endorse what goes on. It's very important that the public be aware of the facts that Glendora presents, and we hope that the show continues as long as possible. Many people, of course, watch the show, and we would hope that it continues a long time into the future. And anyone wants to call me, my office number is 421-4499 to discuss it further.
In Long Island, and it's the only argument Cablevision has given is that Glendora is not living out there. She's not a member of the public within, but now Glendora has an address in Long Island. So far as I can tell, folks, that completes what happens on the law-breaking of Cablevision, Dolan, Cotta, Quinn et al. On the week of Thursday, June 20th to today, Thursday, June 27th. Oh, our church, every Memorial Day, I believe it's Memorial Day, gives every woman who comes a plant, a little begonia. And I always take the worst looking one, because I know that its feelings are hurt, people are passing it by, and it's probably been abused, and then I nurse them back to health. And this one, poor little thing, it looked as if somebody had sat on it. It was all rotten in the middle. There were maybe 2-3 leaves around here. So I came home and I groomed it, and I gave it plenty of water and sunshine all day long, morning to the east and afternoon to the west. And look at it, isn't that adorable? It's even got a little blossom. And then Eleanor Folsom, the 92-year-old woman I told you about, who's been married 73 years. I can't find white gloves anywhere. You just can't find them anywhere. I tried, so many. I even going to buy police gloves. And so I asked Eleanor, I said, Eleanor, do you have any white gloves that you don't wear anymore? Because, this goes back a few years, and somebody like Eleanor would have them. And she goes to her drawer, and look, she gives me 3 beautiful pairs of white gloves. This has a little bow on it. And here's another pair with braiding, beading. See, this is the way things were in the old days when people wore white gloves. They're pretty. So I think the Nassau edition, Long Island edition is just about over. And I don't want to go in and tell you news from another area, so I think I'll play you some of the jokes that I told my 50th anniversary high school reunion class in Springfield, Massachusetts last Saturday, which would be the summer, the 22nd, the summer solstice, when the sun sets as far to the north as it's going to and rises as far to the south as it's going to. Well, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, but this is as far to the south as it's going to rise and as far to the north as it's going to set. When the days are when you have the longest day of the year. In the summertime, the shortest day of the year in the wintertime. That audio tape, I found another comment by Stephen Haas. He says, what is your legal background? This is